Boker Tov. Today's daf yomi is Bava Basra Chaf Beis, Bava Basra 22. We're going to get started on the top of 22a. The daf is dedicated for Shmir for the Chayalim, Hatzalah for the Shvuyim, the Yeshua for Am Yisrael in this Eis Tzara. Yitzina Lacha Rav Huna, the Rav Huna said if a person is selling something in his town and a person wants to come from the other town to sell, that he can stop him because he says, you're going to ruin my livelihood. So in this context, the Gemara tells us, Amar Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak, Moda Rav Huna bereid Rav Yoshua. Rav Nachman bar Yitzchak said that Rav Huna would admit that you could stop people coming from another town to sell, according to Rav Huna, but not if they were peddlers walking around to each of the houses selling the jewelry or the perfume. So then he can't stop them because that's a special takana of Ezra. Damar, as we learned already, Ezra Tikain Lahen Israel Shiu Rochan Machzirim Bayaros. Ezra established that you could have these peddlers walking around the cities selling the perfume and the jewelry, Kadeshi Tachshitim Mitzuyim of Nos Israel, so that the Jewish girls could be able to buy their tachshitim, their adornments. So don't mess with the girls and don't mess with the way the boys want the girls to look. That's going to always be allowed. And so if they're going to go around to the houses and knock on the doors and selling, that's allowed. V'hani mili la dure, that's only if the people are going to basically go around knocking on all the doors and then they'll go back to their city. But to come into the other town, come in from another town and set up an actual store, that's not allowed, according to Rav Huna. But if the person who's the salesman, the merchant, is a Torah scholar, he'd even be allowed to set up an actual store. The Rava Sharlu, Rabbi Yoshaya, or Rabbi Avadia, like Rava allowed Rabbi Yoshaya and Rabbi Avadia to set up actual stores. Even though it wasn't a typical, maybe it's halacha, the Yad Ramah says it means it wasn't the actual practice. And my time, what's the reason? And even the Rabbanan who also with Tardu Megirsayo, since they were rabbis, if you're not going to let them set up a store, you're going to make them go around to all the shops, you're going to mess up their Torah study. Hanu Dikailu, the Asi Dikailu Bavel. So then there was these people whose job it was to sell baskets. And they came to Babylon, they wanted to sell their baskets. Also, B'nai Masa Kama'akvilayu. The people of the town said, no, you're not allowed to sell baskets. We got the monopoly here. It's our town. So also came to Ravina. So they came to Ravina to try to stop them. Ravina said, meaning to say there was a market day and they came to sell on the market day. So since they came to sell on the market day, they're going to sell to the people who also come on the market day. Meaning to say, yeah, they could sell at the market. That's meaning to say, gave them permission to sell on the market day. But if it wouldn't be the market day, well, they wouldn't be allowed to sell. To be Yom Shuka, Nami Wamrina, now is Zabuni Beshuka. Also, even on market day, they don't have carte blanche to sell throughout the city. They only have the permission to sell in the market of Aladurelo, but to go around to all the towns and throughout the town and knock on each door, they don't have permission. Hanu Amorai, so now Amorai is the person who sells wool. The Aisu Amara from Nara, they brought their wool to sell in this town called Pumnara. Also, B'nai Masa, the people of the town stopped them. Also, Kamei de Rav Kahana. So they came to complain to Rav Kahana and say they're not letting us sell. So Rav Kahana said to them, Dino de they're within their rights to stop you. But they said to him, Islan Ashrai, we need to be here. People owe us money. We sold them stuff on credit, and then we have to collect it from them. Rav Kahana was somewhat mollifying them. He said, Zilu Zabanu Shiur Chiusaichu. Okay, you could sell enough to live on while you're collecting the credit. But Ada Krisu Ashrai, the didachu vazlisu, but until you get rid of the credit that they owe you, means until you collect your debt, then vazlisu, then you have to go. Basically, just collect your debt and then you got to go. Rav Dami Miniar died, so now we have a very sad story, interesting story. Rav Dimi Minardai, so this is his name, Rav Dimi of Nardai. I see gross besvina. He was bringing the figs on a ship. Amoy Reish Galusa Larava, so the Reish Galusa said to Rava, Puk Chazi Itzorba me Rabbananhu. Go out and tell me if this is a Torah scholar. Go out and tell me if this is a Torah scholar. Because if he was a Torah scholar, he'd get the exclusive in the town. And if so, Nakale Shuka, we'll give him the exclusive. Amoy Ravel Ravada Baraba, Poke Taile Bekan Kane. Go kick the can, meaning smell him, give him a test. And that was the expression to test if he was a Torah scholar. Smell the can. Nafak Azal went out by Mine. So Rav Adabar Abba asked the following question of Rav Dimi Minardai to test if he was a Torah scholar. Seems a little bit of an esoteric question, but that's what you want to know. He said to him, Pil Shaboa, Kafifa Mitzuris. Let's say you have an elephant that swallowed a wicker basket. Vikia Derech Beisarei. And then the elephant basically evacuates the basket via its tuchus. And then, what will be the law there? Do we consider this as manure, in which case it's not capable of contracting tumah, or does it still consider it to be a utensil? Meaning, what do we look at it as? If an elephant poops out a basket, do we view it as poop or do we view it as a basket? Excuse me for speaking like that. I try to explain it to you as clearly as I can. So Rav Dimi Nardai didn't have the answer. Amrway, Mar Niu Rava. So Rav Dimi said to Rav Adav, you must be the great Rava, who I heard about as the greatest man, the rabbi in the city. So Rav Adav hit him lightly with his shoe. To Rav Dimi, he said, no, Bein Didi Rava Ika Tuva. Between me and Rava, there's a huge gap. Miu al Karchach, Ana Rabcha, Verava Rabcha de Rabcha. Yeah, he said, okay, there's a huge gap between me and Rava, but you're greater. I'm greater than you, and Rava is greater than your Rebbe, which is me. So therefore, he tested him and he flunked him. Well, Naktu a Shuka. So they did not give Rav Dimi the exclusive to sell the figs in the market. Pasig Grogoros today. So he lost money, he lost his figs. Also, coming to Rav Yosef, he came to Rav Yosef. Chazi Mar Mayavduli. He says to the Rebbe Rav Yosef. Rav Yosef was a contemporary of Rabbah, so that means he was a Rebbe of Rabbah. He said, look what they did to me. Amarwe. Rav Yosef said, Mando Shayi Lo Nisa de Malka de Edom. The one, i.e., God, who didn't wait to punish after hearing about what was done wrong to the kings of Edom. He will not wait to punish those who wronged you. God, it says in the book of Amos, for 3 sins of Moab, and on the 4th I will not return. I will not hold back. I'll sarfu atzmos melech Edom wasid, because they burnt the bones of the king of Edom into lime. They crushed them up. So we see from here that God punished those who ruined the kings of Edom. So too, God will punish those who ruined you. And soon after that, Rav Adav died. So Rav Yosef said, so all the Rabbanon, we're going to see, the Rabbanon thought that they were responsible. First, Rav Yosef said, and the reason is, Tosfos explains, because anybody whose friend is punished because of something that relates to him, like he did something wrong and your friend is punished, that person is not going to be able to go into the mechitza of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, Tosfos says. And so therefore, they were all upset that they were not going to be able to go into the mechitza of Hashem. So Rav Yosef said, it's my fault. Ana nishtei, the ana latiyasei. He says, it's my fault because I cursed him. Rav Dimi Minardai said, Ana nishtei, it's my fault, the avse grogroros didi, because he lost my figs. And so therefore, because he cost me my figs, I was upset at him, so he got punished. So Abaye says, Ana nishtei, it's my fault, Damar wahu rabbanim, because this Rabbi said to the rabbis, Adagamar Adim garmisu garmi be'abaye. Before you go and eat the bones by Abaye, Zuacha bisra shmeina be Rava. Go eat the fatty meat by Rava. I mean, say he was making fun of my shiurim, says Abaye. So I was upset at him, so that's why he was punished. Rava Amar, fourth answer, Rava said, Ananishte, it's my fault. Because when he used to go to the butcher to get a piece of meat, he said to the butchers, Ana shakilna bisra mikmei shmai de Rava. The Ana adifna. He said, you know what? Rava's great, but when you have a choice between getting for me and Rava's assistant, get it for me because I'm greater. But really, Rava was upset about that because his assistant was an extension of him. And the fifth rabbi was Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak said, Ana nishte, it's my fault. Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak Reish Kalav, and he was the head of he used to give a shir to the community on Shabbos or whenever everybody would gather. He was the Reish Kala when they did the Yarchi Kala. And what happened was, Kol Yoma, here, Rashi says, Dorish Parabim b'Shabbosos. He did it on Shabbat. So, and he said, Kol Yoma Mikmei Denei Olakawa, before he went up to give the shir to everybody, Marahit Ba'adei Ravada Bar Abba, Ushmaite. He would go over it with Ravada Bar Abba, Vahadar Ayolakawa, and then he'd go up and give the shir. Ahu Yoma, that day, Naktua Rav Papa, Ravuna Bered Rav Yeshua, Ravada Bar Abba. That day, Rav Papa, Ravuna Bered Rav Yeshua, Ravada held back Ravada Bar Abba, Mishum Delo Avo Bisiyuma, because he wasn't at the Siyum. Rashi gives two explanations. Maybe the Siyum was when he finished the chapter, or he wasn't there at the previous year. And so therefore, they kept back Ravada Bar Abba, but Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak was waiting for him to start the shir. But they said to him, Amaway, they had said to him, on Hani Shmaita de Master Behema Echamrin. We said, tell us what he said at the end of Bechoros, the laws of Master Behema. Tell us what Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak said. So Rava Amaru, Hachi Amar Rava. Amaru, we said to them, this is what Rava said. Hachi Amar Rava, and this is what Rava said. Adachi. In the meantime, they were telling Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak, get started already. Amrulei Rabbanu Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak, kum dinaguan. You know, it's getting late for us. Get started. So it's time. So Lama Yosef Mar, why are you sitting down? Amrulei Yosivna v'kaminter al arsi Ravada Baraba. So Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak made a joke. He said, I'm sitting and waiting for the coffin of Rav Ada Bar Abba. And then, in the meantime, sure enough, he made this joke. It was like, like when a king says something by accident, it still takes effect. And the sound went out, that the noise came, that Rav Nachman, that Rav Ada Bar Abba died. And the Gemara says it's logical, Mistabra, the Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak country. It's logical to assume that Rav Nachum Bar Yitzchak is the one who did it, because right after he said it, that's when Rav Ada Bar Abba died. Sometimes people make jokes about people dying. We see from here that those jokes are not appropriate to be said. Okay, hold on one second. Exactly. Exactly. So Ramaya is saying it's this week's parasha. You see the power of speech, a very, very appropriate were connection. Thank you, Ramayer Shkoyach, for that. So now we say the Mishnah says, the next Mishnah, Misha Yakoslo Samach Koslo Chavero. Somebody has his wall next to his friend's wall, and then the wall falls down. Presumably, that's what the Gemara is going to say. He shouldn't put another wall next to it. That if his wall falls down, he shouldn't put up the wall again unless he's 4 cubits away. That 4 cubits is approximately 6 feet. Now we have the second scenario, which maybe you'll remember because we had it back on the second daf. We had it right at the very beginning of our Masechta. Chalonos bein milamal bein milamatan bein kenegdan arba amos. Between the windows, you have to be a gap. If you're overlooking the window of your friend, you need to be either above them 4 cubits, below 4 cubits, or opposite them from 4 cubits. Gemara says, well, wait. The first case was that your wall falls down, and then you can't put the other one up within 4 cubits. So the Gemara asks, well, how was the first wall there within 4 cubits? So I'm Rav Yehuda, Hachi we're on the top of 22b. So Rav Yehuda says this is what we're referring to. This is what our Mishnah is saying. Hachi Ka'amar, Habal Ismoch, well, Yismoch Elam Kain Hirchak Mimenu Arba Amos. He says that what way you have to read our Mishnah is if you want to put up a wall, you have to be 6 cubits away. Not that you already had a wall that fell down. So Maske for Rava does not like Rav Yehuda's answer. He challenged it. He says, because the language of our Mishnah is somebody who had a wall next to his friend. So presumably there was already a wall there. That's what it states, Katani. I'm a Rava, therefore Rava gives a second answer. Achi Katani, this is what it means. Somebody who has his wall near his friend's wall, and they were at a distance of 6 cubits. V'nafon fell down. He can't put up another wall next to his friend's wall unless he's 4 cubits away. My time, because when you walk there, it's good for it. The Gemara's assumption is that when you walk with your feet between the 2 walls, that always is going to help the 2 walls for the ground to get hardened and it to be solidified, and that's going to be good for the wall. So if you're going to put the new wall so that people can't walk in between the 2 walls, it's going to be bad for the wall. So therefore you have to keep the gap. Amarav, well, Shanu el Kosogina. When do we say you need to have this gap? If it's a garden wall of a Kosel Chater, but if it's a courtyard wall where people are walking on the other side of it, then in Bo Smoke Somech. If he wants to put it right next to it, he can, because there by a courtyard wall, we're not going to be concerned. But the Gemara says, actually, Amar Rabbi Yossi B'Chanina Below Pligi, that Rav and Rabbi Hoshaya are not actually arguing. Why? Habiyir Yeshana, Habiyir Chadash. It depends if it's an old wall, then the wall is already solidified. It's an old city, the wall's already solidified, then you don't have to worry. And that's when we say in the garden, it is an new city, but in the courtyard, it's an old city, so you don't have to be worried about it. It's already solidified. But if it's a new city, like in the garden, then you have to make sure there's a gap. So now the Mishnah comes along, the Gemara comes along, and again challenges Rava, who says that the reason why you have to separate the gap is because to allow people to walk. Because what does the second part of our Mishnah say? The windows, whether above or below or opposite it, you have to wait 4 cubits. And we learned about that. What's the problem with the windows? If it's above, so we don't want you to look. So that you can't stand up on your tippy toes and look in. And opposite it, you can't put up your wall blocking their windows, so you don't block the light. But it doesn't say anything about solidifying the windows. Now, you might think that there's a difference. First of all, Tosha says, why don't they just say that the second clause of the Mishnah is talking about an old city? It's already fortified. Tosha gives his answers to that. Okay. But anyway, so the Gemara says, no, what we're talking about here in the case of the window is Baba Menatzad. That there, this wall that you're putting up is perpendicular to the house. And so therefore it's not going to, the walking wouldn't have solidified it regardless. That's what we're talking about. And how much do you have to, how far away do you have to be? So Yeva, the father-in-law of Ashan, the son of Nazach, says, the distance of a window, the distance of a space of window, which is a tefach. The Gemara says, but still, so since he's so close to the windows, it's not going to help if he lifts it up 4 cubits. He's still able to lean on the window and see into the courtyard to the house of his friend. That's what Rashi explains. The Maggid Mishnah says, no, you can't. If it's 4 cubits high and it's just a tefach gap, you can't see. So the Tosfos explains that the reason why lifting it up doesn't help is because the length of the wall is like the width of the window. And so therefore a person can stand on the edge of the wall and be able to stare in under those circumstances. Anyway, so different explanations, but anyway, the Gemara explains, Amar Zvid b'madir es koslo. No, it's where the wall is on a slope, meaning to say he made the head of the wall on a slope, on a slant, and it's going towards the windows, and so therefore he can't stand up on it and he can't lean on it, and so therefore since it's on a slant, he won't be able to look. So the Gemara says, arba amos. But how can we say in our Mishnah that you need to keep it away from the window 4 cubits? And it's not just like the size of a space of a window, which is 1 tefach. So why are you saying it's 4 cubits? The Gemara says, so the Gemara says, well, it's not difficult. One is by 1 window, one is by 2 windows. One is by 1 direction, one is by 2 directions. The brisa that says 1 tefach, that is where you're just building the wall on one side of the windows. And so therefore, it's not completely blocking him. But the Mishnah is talking about a case where you built the wall mishtei ruchos on 2 sides of the windows. And so therefore, you have to be farther away. Tashma, the Gemara again challenges Rava, who says that you have to separate from the walls because of davsha, the walking, you need that. As a kosel, it says in the next Mishnah, the wall, you need a distance from the gutter, arba amos, 4 cubits, so you could put the ladder up to just the gutter. We see the only reason is because of the ladder, but not because of the fortification of the ground or of the wall. Hagmar says, no, what we're talking about there is that the gutter was built on a slope from the roof, and therefore that if the whole reason was only because of davsha, you wouldn't need to strengthen the wall at all. Why? Because he could walk between the wall and the gutter. And so therefore Mishnah is telling us that nevertheless you need to distance yourself from the wall, from the roof of your friend, so that he can climb up and clean the gutter from basically the leaves and the stones that are gathered on there. Okay, the next Mishnah says, you have to keep your ladder away from a bird coop by 4 cubits. So the namiya, Rashi says, is a small animal, and if you had your ladder there, it would be able to climb up the ladder and jump in and kill the birds. And so therefore you have to keep it 4 cubits away. Yes, a kosel and amasliu dawadamas is the case we just had. The wall has to be 4 cubits away from the gutter. So he could put up his ladder. In our Mishnah, which says that you have to not keep a ladder on your property to prevent the Nemiya from going up and killing the birds, it must be it's not like Rabbi Yossi. Dear Rabbi Yossi, Amar Zecho for B'toch Shalom, Zanote B'toch Shalom. Rabbi Yossi says everyone can dig in their own property. So, and it's not your fault. Gemara says, "Afilu tim Rabbi Yossi, ha'amar Rav Ashi, ki avinam de Rav Kana, ha'amar mod Rabbi Yossi begira didei." He says Rabbi Yossi would admit that if it's his own arrows, like in this case, it's his own ladder, that it's his fault. Anachinami also zimnin de ba'ali de manachay yitba bachor v'kavtza. Indeed, we see this because sometimes when he so the Gemara says sometimes when he immediately puts on the ladder next to the wall, and then the Mia jumps into from its hole and quickly goes up the ladder. And so we see from here that it's immediate. And so there Rabbi Yossi would admit that he's responsible. Gemara says, Valgramahu, but this is just indirect damages. And so therefore, why is he responsible? I'm have to even Rathos, Zosomeris, the Grabam and the Zikin is answer. Doesn't this prove that indirect damages by indirect damage by damages, but in case of damages, is prohibited. And so therefore, even though he'd be exempt from having to pay, nevertheless, like we saw in Bava Kama, that there are those who say, Ein danim dina de garmi, even though he'd be exempt to pay, nevertheless, it's prohibited to do. And so therefore he has to distance his ladder. So hold on, let's stop the recording here. We'll just go for a couple more minutes to do the next